Good morning, everyone. It's good to be together, which is also my way of saying settle down. Get ready to sing. I'm going to ask you to rise in body or spirit to sing this song. Rabbi Shoshana Meir Friedman is a prominent climate justice activist who wrote this song as a call to urgent and immediate action. So please note we will have the first verse sung by the choir, and then we will invite y'all to sing that and a second verse. And the words will be honest. Oh, there they are.
This is Good morning. It is wonderful to have folks here and folks online. These are the times when we need one another, and so I am so grateful to welcome you to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. We want to welcome you to our sanctuary, whether you're joining us here in person or online. Either way, there's an opportunity for you to make contact with people after the service through our virtual coffee hour online for 15 minutes after the service, and then also in our Borton Hall, where you can come and sign a visitor's card. You can also do that online. And you can also say hello and help support our youth snack sale as our youth work for a trip in the spring. On the first Sunday of the month, when we have an opportunity 15 minutes after the service for those who are ready to make the commitments of membership and to sign our membership book. It is a way that we can all stay engaged, is to participate. And so we welcome you to check out our calendar and all that is happening and indicate that you are interested in wanting to make this community strong in these times. This week, we have a couple things going on, and one of them is that we'll be having our restorative practices service on Wednesday, and we will also be having a conversation about gun violence on Wednesday that will be led by our intern, our wonderful intern minister, Rose Rydell. So please think about joining that. And today, this afternoon at 1:30, we are bringing back our spiritual feasts. And so if you're interested in a different format, or if you're at home and you thought I really wanted to get dressed and come to church, you still could do it. It's still not too late. So we hope we'll see you at 1:30 for our spiritual feast. And either way, welcome to this beloved community.
Good morning. I'm Andrew Oswald, a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to our service. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other, to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. Membership is an act of commitment and dedication. It says that you want to be part of what we are creating together. These are times when we need to step up. If you have not yet considered membership, please sign up for our UU 101 at the visitors table. If you are a member, please check out the Just in Time to honor those commitments. In these times, let us celebrate and support the values we champion. And welcome. It's good to be together.
So today is the third part of our series on democracy. So as we exchange greetings today, and my greetings to all of you online, I haven't quite gotten on there yet, I invite you to say, I'm glad you voted with your feet and you're here to say hello.
Jim. Yes. Like now? Well, some of you are already risen, so rise in body or spirit. This is a song by Jim Scott. It was inspired by Kenneth Patton, a Universalist minister instrumental in establishing the Charles Street Meeting House in Boston. Let this be a house of peace.
I am Maria Rieger, and my pronouns are she and her. I was born into a very, very, very terrible dictatorship in Spain, and it lasted for many years. That makes me very worried about events that are happening in this country that I love now, and that I didn't ever expect that at the end of my life I would come to have this type of fears. Anyhow, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the famous writer, once said that one should pass the truth of one's life through the fire of thought. This is also what journalists and others do to provide us with accurate information so essential for democracy. Accurate information is the most essential for democracy. In a dictatorship, there is no free press, no free tribunals of justice, and one is in the hands of the chief of police of the area. We are not there yet, thank God. I hope that we never will get there. May we here today honor our commitment to the free and responsible search for truth and for meaning. May it be so.
Good morning. Okay, for our Time for All Ages today, we're going to do something a little bit different. And we're going to play a game called Picture Telephone. And it involves having somebody draw something on your back with their fingers. So if you are somebody who's comfortable and would like to play the game, I want you to come stand on this step with me. And if you are somebody who feels more comfortable watching the game, then let's have a seat on the floor. So if you're comfortable with somebody touching your back, come stand on the steps with me. We're going to get into a line. I'll be at the end of the line. And then let's go down one step so that we can still see Reverend Leslie. Some of us are kind of tall.
So Rose is going to start our game by whispering something into Forrest's ear. And then Forrest will start our drawing. Actually, Rose is going to start it by drawing, and then Forrest will pass the drawing on. Okay, so everyone face Marina, and here we go. Because we're thinking about how information gets passed from one person to another. You'll do it when it'll get passed down to you. Yeah. So as we're doing this, those of you who are watching, you can think about how it is that sometimes someone says something to you, and by the time it gets to you, it's not quite the same as it was when it started. Has that ever happened in anyone's family? Friendship groups? Workplace? School? Yeah. It does happen, doesn't it? Oh, it's moving down to here now. So one thing we can think about too is sometimes when we get information and we're not sure exactly if it's accurate or not, we can think about how much we want to pass it on. Okay, so wait, we're gonna hold on. We're gonna find out what it started as.
Wait, start at this end, find out what the guess is, and then work our way that way to see how it got translated.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it was 2 lollipops.
It was just a line, a squiggly spiral line, and a line.
I thought it was a line and like a squiggly line, but it kind of looked like a smiley face, but with a squiggly line instead of an eye on one side.
It had a line on the right side, and then had like a cloud shape on the right side, but it was like vertical, so it looked like a squiggly line. I don't even know. And it had like a smile. It had like a giant smile at the bottom.
I thought it was a really weird smiley face.
Yeah, I thought it was a cloud or like a tree. Like a cloud, like a straight line, and like a dot.
I thought it was like a tree with a little fallen apple at the base.
I also thought it was a tree.
It was, in fact, a tree.
All right, yay. So, as we think, good job, and as we think about how far accuracy traveled, let us also think about all the information we take in our lives and how we might check back sometimes with the source. And can we just thank everyone for participating? Yeah. And we're going to sing our children to their classes.
No, that's okay. May your May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Hi, I'm the Reverend Rodney Limmery, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm honored to serve this congregation as your associate minister. In this congregation, it is our tradition to honor our interconnectedness by identifying important organizations that are aligned with our UU values and support them with our own community treasure. We do this once a month by sharing the money taken in through our offertory with an organization that shares our UU values through our Share the Plate program. Today, we will share the offering with Trinity Center. This Walnut Creek-based day and overnight shelter program is vital in helping serve the unhoused community here in our county. Here's a short clip describing the organization and its mission.
Trinity Center, which is located on Trinity Avenue in Walnut Creek, is a place where the community can come together to support each other, especially those who are vulnerable because they're experiencing homelessness, or more and more these days, on the brink of experiencing homelessness. We were founded in 2012, and every weekday from 8 to 4, we open our doors to opportunity. We want to make sure that people have a safe place to rest, a place to eat breakfast and lunch, to shower, or do laundry. And then once these essential needs that we all have are met, we offer support and advocacy to help people who are seeking housing, financial stability, and overall wellness. The long-term effects of the COVID pandemic, I think we're just starting to see, and many of the safety nets that people used to be able to rely on simply aren't as strong anymore. So issues around poverty, family fragmentation, lack of housing or losing housing are burgeoning in places that never expected to be wrestling with them, and in families that never expected to be wrestling with them. We are grateful that this year, like the last 7 years, we have been able to offer an emergency shelter program overnight during the winter in partnership with the City of Walnut Creek and many, many supporters. We definitely see an increasing need. Certainly people need overnight shelter to stay out of the elements, and this year we see that more than ever. And we are also seeing increasing numbers of people coming to our day program. In this past year already, we've seen 1,072 people, which is 12% more than the same time last year. So we're seeing it in the overall numbers, we're seeing it in the number of people who come every day, and we're seeing it in the increasing proportion of people who are homeless for the first time or are younger. We're seeing more and more young people who have kind of remained under the radar, but now are needing help more than ever. So behind me, you see this little sign here, Trinity Center Meeting Rooms and Apartments. One of our staff, Leslie, also named Leslie, who was previously homeless herself, experienced homelessness and the tragedy and trauma of that for a long, long, long time, is now living in our apartments, in the local community, and she still works with us. She's serving as our shower and laundry coordinator, so she's giving back and able to help people in the same ways that she was able to benefit from the help that was offered to her. So Trinity Circle, we love being here because we are full circle.
It is our hope that you will find it in your heart to give to this amazing organization today by either marking your check or envelope here in the sanctuary with Share the Plate, or if you're joining us online, by visiting our website at MDUUC.org and selecting the Give Now from the menu. Once there, you can select the Share the Plate option from the donation dropdown. Please join us in our support for this amazing organization so that they can continue the fight against poverty and houselessness here in the community and beyond.
Hello. Morning. My name is Marie McGuire, and my pronouns are she and her. Now, I've been asked to speak today because I spent 30 years working on newspapers here in Contra Costa County. And whether I was a reporter with a 5-person staff on a paper in Antioch, or an editor with maybe 35 different people on a news desk in the East Bay Times, our mission in the newsroom was always the same. Give the readers the facts as honestly and as truthfully as you can. And if you make a mistake, correct it. Now, maybe it was just a 2-sentence correction on page 2, or maybe we had to rewrite an entire story explaining how we blew it. But whatever was required, we did it. Now, over the years, the papers I worked on transitioned from typewriters to computers to even better computers. But though the technology changed, our values never did. It was always give the readers the facts and make sure they are correct. However, I noticed in 2000 that though our principles were still the same, some of our readers had some different ideas. We got some rather strange complaints. How dare we print that liberal trash from the New York Times? Why were we running Washington Post stories? Didn't we know their reporters were commies? And my favorite, we needed to watch Fox News. Those reporters knew what was really going on. Deep State was coming. Now, we thought it was a fringe group, nothing serious. And when the East Bay Times joined the digital age, I actually was thrilled. I didn't see it as an end to my profession. I thought it would be a way for our readers to learn more about the world and a way to fight these strange viewpoints. I could not have been more wrong. When I retired 8 years ago, I saw how divided our country was becoming. But I really had no fear about the country's future. I mean, where democracy was strong, wasn't it? I underestimated Donald Trump. His first term was bad, but we did survive. But now he's back, and this time I think it's more serious. I had my first feelings of dread just days before the election. First, the publisher of the Los Angeles Times, refused to let his paper run an editorial endorsing Kamala Harris. Then Jeff Bezos of the Washington Post did the same thing. Now, my first response was, oh no, they think Trump is going to win. My second was, they think he's going to win. They're afraid. My fears were confirmed the day of Trump's inauguration when Jeff Bezos joined Elon Musk and other tech titans as guests of honor. Now, since then, funding for PBS and NPR have been threatened. Since then, the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office because they won't use the term Gulf of America. Then there's our new FBI director, Kash Patel. He's threatened to come after these journalists who helped rig, that's his words, the 2020 election. So why does this matter? Because it threatens a government that I care a lot about. I love the idea of democracy, even how imperfect it is. Journalist Maria Reza won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2021. She has covered corrupt regimes in the Philippines. She knows a thing or two about dictators. This is what she has to say. If you want to rip the heart out of democracy, you go after the facts. You lie all the time. Then you say it's your opponents and the journalists who lie. This, she says, is what modern authoritarians do. Now, I believe facts matter because information is power. Facts matter because a democracy relies on people being able to talk to each other and to solve problems together. To do that, we have to rely on a common set of facts. And if we can't do that, we're in trouble. Now, I know usually these calls to worship end on a really positive, inspirational note. I'm sorry. I just can't do that today. But I can offer some hope. The Washington Post is still reporting news critical of the Trump administration. They're not backing down. PBS and NPR still exist. But more importantly, this congregation exists. One of the best ways not to become a victim of lies, not to go down that dark pool, is to be with people you trust, whose facts you can rely on. And I believe we have such a community here at Mount Diablo. And I believe together we can get through this dark time. So in this spirit, I ask of all of you, come, let us worship together.
Good morning, friends. Now is the time in our service when we take into the heart of this community those joys and sorrows which are too great to hold alone. Would those who have written in the book of joys and sorrows come forward at this time? I'll ask Leslie to light for Sharon's solstice, 2 candles. Sharon asks, please send your prayers, good healing energy, and well wishes as I struggle with the effects of chemotherapy. I welcome emails and texts, but am not up for visitors and phone calls right now. The 2nd candle Sharon is asking to be lit for her favorite aunt, that passed on Friday in Baltimore, the last of my parents' generation. I am heartbroken that I won't be able to make the trip for her service, and I am grateful for a memorable visit with her last fall. And finally, Sharon says, for anyone within the sound of this voice, if you are over 50, even if low risk, get that colonoscopy. Michael Stein is lighting a candle for the death of Norm Livermore, MD, a beloved orthopedic surgeon at John Muir Hospital. And Bob Maxwell. Bob is lighting a candle for Marcia, who fell on Tuesday before last, and hurt her ankle and now can't get out of bed. I'm doing everything I can to get her on her feet again. I have Brandon Peel, who is lighting a candle of joy for his book, Bison Medicine, launched this week and became a #1 bestseller in 3 categories. And Reverend Leslie today is lighting a candle of joy to thank all of those who showed up for Friday's vigil in support of immigrants. The Richmond community was grateful for our good showing and leadership. Thank you. And I am asking Reverend Leslie to light 2 final candles. One to hold those joys and sorrows which were not expressed in words, and one to hold our concerns for the world.
So this is the crucible that we're in. a shard. Life caught me looking and hit me hard. Tried to pick up the pieces and puzzle them back, but they scattered too wide and too far. Throw me into the sea, let the turbulent water tumble me, wear me down, and humble me, smooth my sharp edges, and I'll be reborn. I'll be somebody's treasure after the storm. The farther you're scattered, the softer you get. So look for me high on the sand. But for now, leave me down by the water's edge. I'm close, but I'm not done yet. Throw me back to the sea. Let the turbulent water tumble me, wear me down, and humble me, smooth my sharp edges, and I'll be reborn. I'll be somebody's treasure after the storm. And if by chance the tides pass me by or bury me deep in the ground, I'll accept my fate. I will wait and trust that time will tell me when I'm to be found. Throw me back to the sea. Let the turbulent water tumble me, wear me down, and humble me, smooth my sharp edges. I'll be reborn. I'll be somebody's treasure after the storm. Throw me back to the sea.
Thank you, Laura. Such a gift. I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation and reflection and that deepest, 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 my friends, ask of prayer. So this morning as we gather here together, our collective ask is that we remember the tides that we believe in, and that we are not caught in these riptides of false information, disinformation, of all these things that are swirling around us, that we remember today that our focus right now, of course, must be on the concerns before us and also on our collective commitment to return to a world that we have known and which we hope to know again, a world that we have tasted and which we hope those who come after us will also taste. And we hold particularly in our consciousness this morning the idea that every one of us has been touched in some way by this chaos, and also that some of us have been touched more, that these tides are swamping them on an almost daily basis. And we hold those close to us today. Perhaps it is those whose gender identity makes them a victim in this time. Perhaps are those who are called dreamers and now are known to be in a database held by a hostile government. Perhaps we are, like Maria this morning, an immigrant who came to this country hoping for a better outcome and fearful that they will live once again under tyranny. Perhaps we are someone who has worked our entire career on a body of work that has been now silenced and almost disappeared. Perhaps we are looking at loved ones, perhaps having conversations with a child or a grandchild or a nibbling or someone who is asking us, what is going on and what did we do to prevent this? What will we do? And we are asking that question in our hearts. Perhaps we were trained in a world where the solutions seem simpler and the problems seem more manageable, and we want that one or two step answer, and we feel lost in this tide of complexity and false news. Wherever we are today, let us honor our hearts for being here, making connections, remembering that it is together with others that we will find a way to find our voice on the streets, in the town hall meetings, in communications with our elected representatives, in communications with the corporations whose values no longer seem to be ours. Will we remember together today, in this moment, in this faith centered around an embracing love for ourselves, for one another, and for the greater world, that we are better together. And may we pass the hope with true, strong voices from one ear to another, so that we never forget its sound. So may it be.
Good morning. My name is Linda Russell, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. In these times, people are reeling from all of the very difficult things that are coming out of Washington. I am in frequent conversation with friends, families, colleagues, and clients regarding what to do, how to respond. Many feel overwhelmed and helpless. Some feel paralyzed. One of my favorite techniques as a therapist is called behavioral activation. That is when you decide on one or two things that you're going to do on a regular basis to simply get started and get moving. Ultimately, what is important is consistency. People often wonder, will it really make a difference? So an example of this is talking to someone who's depressed and asking them to start walking, if they're able, just 10 minutes a day. That's doable. No more, no less. My behavioral activation in these times is to use 5 Calls app, it's an app on your phone, to reach out to congressional representatives. My behavioral activation in these times is, per the suggestion of someone in this community, a small but regular donation to the ACLU. I did not go to the state capitol 2 weeks ago to show up as part of a protest, but this past Monday, I was in front of Walnut Creek City Hall with several of you in here. On Friday, I was in Richmond supporting our immigrant siblings. This coming Friday, I will not be buying anything as part of a nationwide statement on February 28th. Will it make a difference? I believe by adding my voice to the collective, I become a part of a huge ripple. I become a drop in the water of an ocean for change. What we do when we do what we can, we don't have to shoulder the responsibility by ourselves. We become a part of a movement just as we are a part of a movement within this faith community. Your offering is an engagement. Your offering is a proclamation of support for the values spoken here. Your offering is your activation. And your offering will be gratefully received. The ushers will now come forward. Join me in the dedication of the offering. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
Can we just take a moment and thank our choir for that amazing piece by Langston Hughes, and especially, and because you've now got practice, we're going to thank our acting director for today, Laura Zucker, who's bringing us so much. So sometimes, people who have never seen me type are quite shocked. If they ever are standing behind me when I type something, there's often a giggle and then a laugh. Because my typing, you see, isn't exactly orthodox. I learned to type while working on the high school newspaper and yearbook, and I was so busy at that I didn't finish the touch typing class that we were supposed to take. And at journalism school, Professor Jim Shoemaker, who was immortalized in the Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoon strip Shoe by Jeff McNelly, some of you remember it perhaps, it was birds who were hardened journalists commenting on the world. Professor Shoe would sometimes type in class on his battered manual typewriter. While hunting and pecking with 2 fingers, he would bark at us about accuracy, as Marie said. He would talk about the inverted pyramid of facts, which was the goal of every news story. And so when typing, if you ever see me, my left hand uses most of its digits, but my right forefinger is doing this, having a little dance, a little staccato tap dance that is hell on computer keyboards, I'll just say. Facts, though, as Marie said, facts were the reason for the dance. Reporting them, and even better, uncovering them. That was the reporter's dream. An idealistic pursuit. After watching afternoon after afternoon of Watergate hearings with our sitter as an elementary school child. And that same idealism would later propel me to want to be on the other side of the desk in a world of public policy a decade later. And then there's ministry, which has a little bit to do with ideals, but that's a different topic. But to be clear, I covered the long tedium, mostly of local government, a not constitutional crisis. And there were egos involved, but they would call and yell if they didn't like your angle in a story, yet nobody claimed to be royalty. And even if it was a myth, we were supposed to do our very best to try to be objective. Now, this is the third part in my series on democracy and our faith. And in our truth and world-rooted faith, we affirm the facts of science and the immeasurable value of beings, human and otherwise. And our belief in the ways that we are connected together has not only been affirmed in the ways in which the destruction here on our soil is crumbling principles of democracy around the world. And I will say, if anyone is following this, that Germany has managed to keep the Democratic Party in the first place, but the second place is something to keep in mind. And at a time when what we most needed was cooperation to address the ticking time bombs of climate change and the global plague of economic inequality, what we got instead was a dismantling of many of the tools we would have used to do that. So this is a time when we need to remember what we believe. In our faith, we are the people who believe in the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, who believe in the democratic process as how we should make decisions together, and that know that in order to make informed decisions, we need accurate information. Now, writer Ralph Waldo Emerson, a renegade Unitarian minister who was quoted in our chalice lighting this morning, did say that we should pass the truth of our lives through the fire of thought. Now, no doubt, if he were among us today, he would want even hotter temperatures for searing misinformation. the passing of inaccurate information, disinformation, the transmission of intentionally false information, doxing, using information to bully and harass, or digital bullying, which is like the old stuff of the school halls that many of us have known, but on steroids. He would have wanted us to turn that temperature up even higher, and I believe that might be something we need to do. We have so many more ways now to get information, and it's a challenge for us as people who believe in the ability of humanity to better itself to hold the many ways it is now used to do harm. I want to be clear about journalism and what it was like back in the day. It was a tough business, led mostly by older white men, and they didn't mess around. And as a young reporter, I was subject to the burn of the copy desk. Shu and many of the other people that I worked with and who trained me were old school. In his class, we actually typed our stories onto 8.5 by 11 newsprint, yellow, and folded it in half to submit it the way that they used to in the newsrooms back in his day, but which no one had even done at that time for decades. Then they would get his scathing pencil marks, even though we were actually, in the next class, going to learn editing on fancy new computers. All the professors, especially Shu, taught us that the ethic of trying our hardest to get closest to the truth, even though we knew it was an evasive ideal. It was sort of like trying to catch the wind, but there was something in the dance that was worth the exercise and effort. And though I started working at other jobs at age 15 and in more than 4.5 decades, I can tell you that by far the worst job I ever had was also related to newspapers. It was because I was enthralled with newspapers and I wanted to be close to them. So at age 17, I took a job selling newspaper subscriptions over the phone. I lasted less than 3 days. And I want you to know, it was the worst job. That same year, I also had, briefly, a night job cleaning banks. That was a much better job. Because journalism in those days was a business just like it is today. Yet, like many businesses in those days, different from today, a business constructed around ideals. People profited, the owners had nicer cars and bigger homes than the employees, absolutely, yet they didn't have millions of times more money than the employees. And a pretty thick firewall actually existed in those days between the newsroom and the advertisers. Yeah, every now and then you had to think twice about certain stories, but it didn't mean they were off the table the way they do now. The last dinosaurs of newspapers have perished. Really, though we have a few that still appear in newsprint, it's because they've also learned to appear in pixels. And they aren't owned by the people with the larger lawns. They're owned, many of them, by hedge funds and other entities whose goal is often to suck the profit out like the marrow from bones. After firing the people or cutting the ranks very drastically or selling off the physical assets of a newspaper, they leave what are referred to as ghost newsrooms, or in recent decades, places where the words are shaped without shame by the ambitions of the owners, ambitions shaped by that everlasting search for profit and personal glory. What has happened with the destruction of information and the buying of newspapers is disinformation that is so intense that there's an increasing lack of interest in whether or not something is true or not true. And many, many more of us at the local level, where we also have very important decisions to make, are living in news deserts with no accurate access to the local news. What does this mean? When I first came to this county, a local paper and a local public radio station covered events such as the Immigration Vigil, to which I'm grateful a number of you showed up for on Friday, and which we had several hundred people attend overall. And while this event, and we have a couple images from this, did much to buoy the spirit of those who were there, and while it was covered by 2 social media journalists, this is one of them covering it, and by the local Fox affiliate, briefly. More disturbing, the larger protests at state capitals were barely covered, And yet the images of many of them spread through social media, inspiring more to participate in protests against these atrocities being committed in our name, one of which in recent days has been the abduction of migrants from our borders and their imprisonment in other nations, coerced to take them because of threats to participate. Images of people, including children, writing messages in lipstick asking for help in a hotel in Panama were first reported by the New York Times, but they spread through social media. And so, this is an important part of how we think about how we get information in a time when many things are happening without the due process of law and thus not recognized internationally. The forms of journalism which were around when I was an idealistic young adult are now often described as buggy whips by journalistic scholars. Social media, which right now in many cases and for many causes is the only form of information gathering, is often blamed by us, including me, for the demise of traditional journalism, and yet the economics and rampant greed is not named as a cause. And while it is true that a lack of nuance in posts which influencers use to escalate can create dogmatic thinking, we also have many people as dedicated, trained journalists using social media as a way of getting out information. And so they still are trying to apply those same standards of truth and higher standards as buggy whip forms become more enslaved to the ideology of their new profit-seeking owners. And of course, there are a few exceptions, but there aren't as many as there were even 2 years ago. As we discussed Wednesday night in the Love-Centered Democracy class, there's a big difference on social media, and we all need to understand this, between people who seek to be influencers and those that are still trying very valiantly, and in many cases with big followings, to be journalists. They're professional, independent journalists who are covering important things and stories that might never otherwise be heard. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge one of the things that's happening online, which is that gurus are advising us to do less news, and I completely agree with that. In the name of accuracy, what they mean is actually, though, to listen to less commentary, whether it's from public broadcasters who for decades have become more privately funded, which is good, or talking heads on the ideological networks on both sides of the political divide where there's very little political nuance. Less is more, really. We need to find out and stay alive, but we cannot keep up with everything that is happening, which is why we need each other. I'm grateful to get together with friends who are covering different things than I am so that I can get the truth that they are watching. Yet recognizing what is true about what you are watching and taking the time to invest in those sources that are generally accurate, for no source is accurate all the time, is an important part of our faith in these times. And it's something that we need to protect the democracy, which has been part of our faith since it came to these shores to escape monarchy before the writing of a new and revolutionary constitution, which is now being mocked every day among us. Yes, bias exists in media in all its forms, and yet what we as people of faith need to counter is that new value of cynicism about everything, except for some reason, the self-declared heroes of hyper-capitalism. Somehow we're not cynical enough about them, but everything else. So let's be clear. All forms of the media in our world have values. So take the time to understand whose values you're supporting with the information you consume and figure out what you want to support. I also want to urge you to actually support the forms of media that you value, because so many of them in this digital world do not have a clear path to support. If we do this, we will be less like the game of picture telephone, as fun as that was to watch. Because how many of us have passed on something sometime in recent years and realized that maybe it wasn't 100% accurate? I know I have. It is important for us to have that accurate information and to remember that we still have many ways to have it. Especially around controversial issues, I follow some of the journalistic principles I got as a student at J School, tracking multiple sources, trying hard never to pass on anything that I haven't triple-checked, and trying very hard to differentiate opinion, which I value, from fact, which I need for a different reason. You know, there are a lot of people out there right now trying to get us information. Have you Googled your elected representatives recently? Have you put them in your search engine? Because many of them are holding town halls and other events to try to get information out to you because it's not being covered in the media. And many of us are looking for other ways to think about what we do together to support those who are in public office. In these times, one of our spiritual practices and one of our real acts of resistance is to consider getting information about how we can participate in all kinds of activities, including the economic boycott that's being called this Friday, when we're being asked not to not participate in the market, but to boycott the large corporations who have actually decided that their profit is more important than our democracy. Here is the thing. We will always have the power to name our own truths, and yet to be sure that this is true and that we don't experience what too many in our congregation have already experienced. Let us be educated, and let's educate those around us. Let's take the time to support those who are still working to give us accurate information. Let us be the people who uphold the values, who remember that facts have dignity, that facts have nuance, that facts are based on scientific evidence and not spin. Let us be the people who communicate that facts should drive agendas, that truth should actually not be driven by agendas. Let us remember that our economy is supposed to serve us, to allow us as people to thrive and not to enslave us to some kind of groupthink. Let us support independent media as it exists today and not just yearn for a return of the era of buggy whips, because it's not coming back in that form again, my friends. We don't need our typewriters back, although my computer keyboard would be glad if they got a little bit of a rest from my right hand. We do need an economy that is not devoid of values. We do need a democracy strong enough to take on the real issues before us, founded on the values of our founding leaders, many of which espoused the values that are professed right here. And in the words of Langston Hughes, we need a set of actions that will give us the peace so that we can know, again, the reality of our dreams. May truth be our beacon and courage our guide.
What else can we do? We can be part of an MDUUC world premiere. There's a part of this song that I would love for y'all to sing. It's got 3 parts, and we're gonna run through them in the middle of the song, first with the choir, and then with all of us. And then I'm gonna encourage you to pick one of the 3 parts and just sing it 2 times through. Lately I'm just tired. Hope feels far away. It's hard to see the future through another grinding day. So much desperation, so much hate and greed. How can I face a world of endless aching need. Everywhere I go, let me bring light to chase the dark away. Everywhere I go, let me bring love to shine on the pain. If we are to be the change in the world we want to see, let it be me, let it be me. Fear can make us jealous, fear can make us blind, and underneath this shroud of fear, our hearts will die. We're stronger all together, we can set each other free, as every single drop of justice flows into a mighty sea. Everywhere we go, let us bring light to chase the dark away. Everywhere we go, let us bring love to shine on the pain. If we are to be the change in the world we want to see, let it be me and you, let it be me. Okay, you ready? The words are right there. We're gonna sing all three parts through together. You guys ready? Oh, can we get them over there? Yay! One hand, one heart, one voice is a good start. That's a little slow. Okay. Second part is love will lead us, love will guide us, and then I can change the world. Yeah. One voice, one heart, one voice is a good start. Love will lead us, love will guide us. Good. I can change the world. Okay, we ready? Go. One hand, pick one. World, love, one heart, one hand is a good start. One voice, one. Slides are a little problem. Good start. We'll do this again. Will lead us, love will guide us. Everybody, I can change the world. Yeah. Everywhere we go, let me bring light to chase the dark away. Everywhere I go, let me bring love to shine on the pain. If I am to be the change in the world we want to see, let it be me, let it be me, let it be me, let it be me. Well done.
Wish our chalice today with these words from Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, one of our wonderful ancestors who reminds us that we have endured much in the past and that we are resilient. She says, "There is joy beyond the pain. The shadows bear the promise of a brighter coming day." So let us take the comfort we have found among us today out into the world, and let us continue to remember that we are better together.